So Lauren Schieffer, who is a CSP, grew up in the Air Force, and she was uprooted and relocated every couple of years. And that experience really instilled in her a profound independence and ability to adapt to changing circumstances. The lessons she learned from being the colonel's daughter have helped her to make smart decisions and overcome adversity with both humility and a sense of humor. Her passion in helping organizations build their next generation leaders is truly a deep passion of hers. Whether it's training, keynotes, or longer-term consulting partnerships, Lauren brings a fresh perspective and a street-smart approach to what works and what doesn't. She's also has 18 years with NSA. If you ever wondered if there was, do you get value out of NSA? You don't be a member of NSA for 18 years without value. But she hasn't just taken from the organization, she's given back. She's been a past president of her chapter. She's the recipient of her Chapter Member of the Year Award and the equivalent of her chapter's Cabot Award. At the national level, Lauren has been a member of the Chapter Leadership Committee for 8 years and just finished a year as the chairperson of that committee. She is also Minnesota's liaison to the Chapter Leadership Council and has been for 4 years?
4 years.
4 years. So she's helped us to achieve that elite status. She's also served on the CSP Review Board, the NSA Diplomats Committee, and the Influence Ambassadors Program. But as a speaker, Lauren's a master storyteller, and she's able to deliver those insightful, inspirational, and relevant stories in content that empowers people to absorb and act upon what they've heard. She does it in an entertaining manner with a dry sense of humor that helps to keep people engaged and chuckling while they're learning. Her enthusiasm is truly infectious, as in her passion is unmistakable. She is truly an amazing speaker. She's going to share with us today the 9 essentials to growing and strengthening your speaking business. Please welcome my friend, the Colonel's daughter, Lauren Schieffer.
Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we start, never say before we start. But before we start, I want to share with you that I have been the chapter leadership liaison for the Minnesota chapter for four years. You are a model for what chapters should be, can be, and should be. When we created the chapter recognition program 2 years ago, and I've had the privilege of spearheading that. We figured that elite was going to be a really tough row to hoe. And it is. There's no question about that. And you're one of only 7 chapters that have done it twice. Woo! Woo! Right? When I stepped into the executive committee of the CLC, and I'm closing out my 9th year with them, that's insanity. I'm just telling you, that's insanity. When I stepped into the executive committee, I was mentoring 5 chapters. And I said, I'm willing to do this, but I need to trim down to just one chapter. And that was an easy choice. So I stuck with Minnesota. And I love you guys so much. All right, so here's my first disclaimer. I'm going to start with the opening of one of 2 of my keynotes. I open 2 of my keynotes the same way. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because people often ask me to do that. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to stop, and we're going to make a transition from what is my keynote material and how I've adapted it so it's relevant for you. Is that fair? Will that work? Yes. All right. Can we agree that there is a profound difference between telling someone what to do and empowering them to actually want to do it?
Yes.
You see, as leaders, as employees, as people, we often fail to have the full impact that we desire. And often that's because we have not fully stepped into our leadership ability. And we're functioning against an outdated mindset that's actually working against us. These are just a few of the things that I learned from my father. See, my father was a career Air Force officer. He stood 6 feet, 6.5 inches tall, and was 285 pounds on his very leanest day. Dad had a personality that entered the room 5 minutes before he did. The colonel got straight to the point, believed accountability was essential, and he didn't like to waste time. Yeah, I'm a lot like him. That having been said, of his 2 daughters, I was the flighty one, with my head always in the clouds. My sister followed in my father's engineering footsteps. She knew very early on that engineering was her path in life. I, on the other hand, grew up believing that I was, see, my parents consistently said that Christy was the smart one and Lauren was the pretty one, which made her feel ugly and me feel stupid, and neither of those were true. But she knew immediately what her path in life was. I, on the other hand, grew up believing that I was supposed to be a supermodel. Do you know that you have to be taller than 5'5" to be a supermodel? Yeah, that didn't work out. So then, I have this pegged. I am going to be a star on Broadway. The sun will come out tomorrow. Yeah, that didn't work out either. Country music. Country music's my jam. Sitting on a porch swing, listening to the live rain, beating on a tin roof, baby, just me and you. You know how many people starve for their art in Nashville? That didn't work out either. So there I was, the pretty one, seemingly failing at life. But that wasn't true. I merely had not found my place. I hadn't yet found my voice. I hadn't figured out what was going to make me the $1 million. And then one day, sitting cross-legged on the driveway with my father. You see, so many of my life lessons came sitting cross-legged on the driveway while Dad tinkered and talked from under the roof of our car. On this particular day, as so many times, he stopped in the middle of his sentence and he said, "Pay attention, kid. This right here, this is a road sign in your life. You have to decide if you're going to follow it or not. Anyone can be successful, kiddo. Search for something bigger. Strive for significance." You see, success is about me. It's about what my title is, what my accolades are, how long my bio can be. I'm sorry about that. I should have trimmed it down before we sent it to you. It's about where my parking spot is. Success is about me. It's inwardly focused. Significance, on the other hand, is about we. Has nothing whatsoever to do with compensation packages. It's about how many lives I touch and the manner in which I choose to influence them. Because how we influence others is a choice. It's a choice we make every day. The colonel said, anyone can be successful, kiddo. Choose to be significant. I've had the privilege of learning from many significant leaders, my father foremost among him. But because of who he was and what he did for the Air Force, I've also had the privilege of sitting at the feet of John McCain. I've had the privilege of sitting at the feet of, at the time, Lieutenant Colonel Colin Powell. And Mary Kay Ash, Dr. John C. Maxwell. And I've discovered that each of these significant leaders have certain characteristics in common, which I have steeped down into my 9 essentials of significant leadership. And this is the platform that I use. Now, I'm stepping out. Now, this is the platform that I use for teaching leadership. Today, we're going to mix it up a little bit and make it relevant for you. The 9 essentials of a sustained and significant speaking business. Fair enough? All right. So, essential number 1 and number 2. In all avenues of my speaking, just about any time I choose to open my mouth, I share these 2 principles. These are the platform upon which I have built my life and my business. I call them my 2 pillars of serenity and success. All effective communication stands on 2 pillars. All conflict management, done well, stands on 2 pillars. All leadership, as compared to management, because there's a difference, stands on these same 2 pillars. I believe all functioning life's got to stand on these 2 pillars. I call them my 2 pillars of serenity and success. So I want you to visualize yourself standing, and you have rebar. Y'all know what rebar is? Do I have anyone that doesn't? Because I really want you to get this visual. Please be honest with me. Rebar? Okay, you've seen it, you've just never put a name to it. When they build buildings or freeways, the little iron rods they pour the concrete over makes the wall stronger. Those are called reinforcing bars, which has been shortened to rebar. That's what we're talking about, those little iron rods, okay? So, and thank you for being honest with me. So you've got rebar. It's coming from your hips, around your knees, around your heels into concrete, through the concrete, into the mantle of the earth. Now that roots you. That solidifies you so completely that when the winds of conflict blow, the winds of change, adversity, chaos, misfortune, when those winds blow, and they're gonna, they blow around you. They do not blow you down. These are your 2 pillars. Your own self-esteem, which is essential number 1, and respect to all people, which is essential number 2. So let's take a look at your left pillar. Folks, there is a profound difference between self-confidence and self-esteem. Self-confidence tells me that I can perform a particular task well. It tells me that I am capable. Self-esteem, on the other hand, tells you that you have value because you exist and are therefore worthy of merit. Self-esteem tells you that your value does not rest in who your parents are, what your lineage is, what your country of origin is, who you're married to or dating, what your abilities or disabilities might be, what kind of car you drive, whose name is stitched into the label of your clothing or your shoes, what size you wear, or any of those things that we and society seem to allow our value to rest in. What you pull for a keynote. What you tell people you pull for a keynote. Hey, folks, your value rests in the fact that you exist. It doesn't have to be earned, and it cannot be purchased. It just is. Now, some people are imbued with that sense of self-esteem by their parents, and they are the lucky ones. I did not truly understand that I had value as a human being outside of who my father was till my early 20s. And as child development goes, that's a little late, okay? Because I came to that realization so late in my life. I work assertively every day to build, protect, and maintain my self-esteem. Find a way. to build, protect, and maintain your self-esteem, because without it, you're wobbling around here on one pillar, which is never stable. Furthermore, the right pillar cannot exist without the left, because we cannot treat other people with respect if we don't respect ourselves. Therefore, without the left pillar, the right is compromised and it crumbles. So let's take a look at your right pillar for a moment. I read in a book once when I was young, than I am today. The book was called How to Deal with Difficult People. It was by Paul Friedman. I don't know if Friedman intended this to be profound. It was profound to me, and I took it on as a standard for my life. Friedman said this: I choose to treat this person with respect, whether or not I like what they think, say, or do. Now, to me, that meant that even if they're not treating me with respect, I choose to treat them with respect. And the operative word in that sentence would be what? Thank you. Yes, it's a choice. It's a choice we make every day. I call it walking higher ground. And it is the platform upon which I have tried very hard to build my life and my business. Now, some people believe that functioning from this paradigm, treating other people with respect even though they're not treating me with respect, some people think that would put them at a disadvantage. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because higher ground is always the most powerful place to be. I mean, certainly from a military perspective, higher ground is where you want to be. But even from a personal perspective, higher ground is the most powerful place to be. Okay? Because when we're on higher ground, we rarely, if ever, have to question our intentions. We rarely, if ever, have to scrub our feet off from mucking down in the muck. Now, I believe that we all try. I really do. I believe that we all try and walk higher ground. We're all human, every single one of us. Some days we fall right off of that higher ground. Those are poop days. Then we have to look ourselves in the mirror, scrub our feet off, and climb back up the next day. Then there are some days where we have one foot on higher ground, and we're dragging the other toe in the gutter behind us. Because every now and then, it kind of feels good to drag one toe in the gutter. Oh, come on, doesn't it? Every now and then, it feels good to gossip about other people, to chortle at their misfortune, to expand the story in the telling, to solidify your own position, to wallow in bitterness or refuse to forgive. But on those days, we have to look ourselves in the eye, scrub that toe off before we'll slide it into our nice clean sheets. Now, it's really important that you understand what I'm asking of you here. I'm not asking that you respect all people. There are people that I've met that are in my circle, not my inner circle, but our circles are pretty big, right? People who I've observed, who I can in no way respect. Maybe it's their behaviors. Maybe it's the choices they continuously make. Maybe it's the words they choose. Maybe it's our differing ethics. For whatever reason, I can in no way respect them. That doesn't mean that I don't make a daily choice every day to treat them with respect. You'll notice I've worded that very carefully. It is respect to all people, not respect for all people. The colonel used to say, you don't have to respect everyone, young lady. You have no right whatsoever to disrespect anyone, Lauren Ann. Respect to all people. Now, the right pillar has to exist for the left pillar to exist, because we know at our core that we're supposed to treat people with respect. And usually when we don't, it's because we don't have any self-esteem. And guilt creeps in, and guilt robs you of your self-esteem. So they both have to be there. And when they're both there, they function for you in the background, like the operating system on your computer. Mac? Okay. PC? Dang. Okay, the rest of us, the rest of the world has a PC, okay? So I just want, how many of you function on a PC? Okay? How many of you have gotten the great blue screen of death? The circle of, okay? Your pillars of serenity and success are the operating system for your psyche. Without your operating system, you're dead in the water. And they are number 1 and number 2 of our 9 essentials. Now, as it relates to you as speakers, I want to dig into them just a little bit more. All right? So, understanding your own value begins with knowing what your personal values are. Ladies, would you help me please pass these sheets out? Sheets are going out now? Yes, to everyone. I just didn't want you looking at them before you were here. Now, on these sheets that are coming around, there's a list of words that could be construed as values. Your job is to select 10 of the most important ones. Those 10 that are most important to you. Now, as you read through this list, all of them may appear to be important. But upon further reflection, some will be highlighted as more important than others. Your task is to choose your top 10. You may choose 10 and only 10, and then you will write them in the bottom spaces on the page. Now, as you go through my list, you may say to yourself, well, what about X, which is not on my list? If you have a core value that is not represented on my list, add it to your 10, and then choose 9 from my list. You may have 10 and only 10. Have I communicated my expectations effectively? Yes? All right. Take 2 minutes and do this. Tell me, was this easy or was it challenging? I'm sorry. You have been diagnosed with a very rare disease. It is almost certainly terminal. There is experimental treatment going on in Europe that's showing promise. Your job is to get yourself to Europe and get that treatment. All the trip and the treatment is going to cost you is 3 of those 10 values. Please cross off your least important 3 and narrow your list down to 7. This exercise comes from noted speaker and theologian Ivy Haley. It comes from her book, Discovering Your Purpose. I use it with permission. I'm much nicer than Ivy is. In her book, Ivy continues whittling it down until you have narrowed yourself down to your 1 core value. I will stop here. The purpose of this is understanding what your core values are. Because if you are functioning contrary to your core values, you will sabotage yourself every time. And often I get pushback and people say, that's ridiculous, Lauren. Why would I function contrary to my core values? Often we do it without knowing that we're doing it. Example, let's say one of your core values is family. It's in your top 3. And you have been striving to be the image of what that top speaker is. When I started my speaking career, there was a CPAE named Steve Gilliland. There still is a CPAE. He hasn't died, he's still there. Mentoring me. And he carried like a badge of honor. He carried lots of badges of honor, but he carried a badge of honor that he had done 125 speaking engagements in the past year. And I was like, oh, that's what I have to do. I have to do that. I have to strive for 125 speaking engagements in a year. Do you know how much travel is it? Well, you do. Do you know how much travel is involved in 125 speaking engagements? that take you away from family. So in achieving 125 speaking engagements, which I did once and never did it again, because I was miserable, because I was working contrary to one of my core values. All right? Know what your values are. I highly recommend that you go through some sort of value exploration once a year. Because what we value in our 20s is very different than what we value in our 40s or our 60s. So know what your core values are. All right. Secondly, with regard to speakers, there's one on here that's not on your list, and I need to know which one it is. Okay, know what your unique experience and expertise is. I speak on leadership development. I don't speak on sales. I don't speak on marketing. I don't speak on branding. I don't speak on resilience, Michelle. She's got that one sewn up. And furthermore, within leadership, I focus on emerging leaders. I don't pursue the C-suite. I did when I first started because everybody says that's where the money is. Got to get into the C-suite, that's where the money is. Okay, I have a BA in PR. I've never held a C-level position. All of the management seats that I sat in were middle management. Furthermore, I think that the C-suite now, this is my belief, other people believe differently, that is their right. The C-suite that brought us out of the 20th century and into the 21st century is lost. They are lost to greed, convenience, position, power, and they're lost to my message, which is all about personal accountability. So I focus on building a brand new generation of leaders. I focus on emerging leaders. Know what your Furthermore, I walk into the C-suite. I don't think I have credibility there. And if I don't think I have credibility there, they can smell it. They're like sharks. They can smell it on you, right? So know what your experience is. Know what your expertise is. Your experience and your expertise is enough. You don't need to borrow any experience or expertise from anybody else. Know what yours is. Okay, the one that's missing on your handout is understand what your unique engagement style is. How many of you remember the dear late Jeannie Robertson? Okay? Now, how many of you know Ramon Ray? Two very different engagement styles, would you agree? Ramon Ray would never get away with sitting in a rocking chair on the main stage at Influence with a folksy funny story. You need to know what your engagement speaking style is. I'm funny, but I'm not rolling in the aisles funny. I'm zinger funny. I have a dry sense of humor that every now and then drops a little gem. Know who you are. And then know what your unique value proposition is. What do you bring to the table? What makes you different? Why should it matter to them? When I first started speaking, it seemed that every would-be mentor who wanted to coach me wanted to play the so what game. Have you ever played the so what game? I hate the so what game. I hate it. But you know what? So what? You have to know what you bring to the table. Okay? So, essential number one, understand your own value. Essential number 2, treat all people with respect. So let me ask you, when can you let your guard down with regard to treating people with respect? Anyone? When you're alone. Who said that? Thank you for that. Any other opinions? Say it louder.
Never.
I say never. And here's the only reason that I say never as compared to when I'm alone. Now, do I fall? Do I trip and face plant when I'm alone? Absolutely. But if I consciously let my guard down when I am alone, first off, I am never alone because there is always someone bigger, stronger, higher in my life. And that's the point. He, she, cosmos, however you see that, them, are always with you. And they're always seeing you. And if I allow myself to faceplant when I'm alone, I might allow myself to faceplant when I'm not alone. So I endeavor to never let my guard down. And it's always about, the golden rule, or Tony Alessandro, the platinum rule. All right? Can you imagine how I would feel in that situation? So don't do it. All right? And then I also want to call out some very specific respect potholes that you want to avoid. Do you see that first one on your handout? Would you circle it for me, please? After you've circled it, will you underline it for me, please? And if you have a highlighter, you can do that. It is that important. Don't do it. Don't let it come in. Don't let it go out. Gossip is always negative. And anytime you gossip, the person that you're speaking to is in the back of their mind wondering what you say about them when they're not around. And even if you think that the gossip is positive, if it's about someone else and it's positive, it's not your story to tell. Did you hear Barbie got engaged? Well, you just robbed Barbie of her amazing aha moment with someone showing them the ring. It's not your story to tell. Most of the time, gossip is negative. Don't let it come in, don't let it go out. And it will always undercut your credibility. So I have developed some habits. If I'm with a group of people who are gossiping, I will excuse myself. Have an exit line that works well for you. Make sure it's always true, never lie. My exit line is, excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom. Because for me, it's always true. But I don't say, I'll be right back. That would be a lie, okay? And I have been in situations where it is not appropriate to step away. I have a line that works for me. I will always say, hold on a minute, do you mind if I change the subject? I've been meaning to ask you about. I never stop for a breath between, do you mind if I change the subject and I've been meaning to ask you about? I just change the subject. I don't give them the opportunity to say no. I change it to something that's positive and is not gossip. And then I move on. You see the next one in that list? Would you please put 3 words behind it? Don't do it. This is my opinion. Other people have their opinions, and that is their right. I believe that as quasi-public figures, profanity is inappropriate. I believe profanity is chiefly responsible for the numbing and dumbing of the United States. People are forgetting half of the English language in favor of curse words. So rather than saying, and I'm going to say something that is not a curse word, but that's because I don't usually. Rather than saying I was pissed off, maybe you could say I was disappointed, I was disgusted, I was frustrated, I was incensed, I was enraged, I was irate, I was gobsmacked. I learned that one in the UK. Okay? There's 1,000 different words that you could use. And I believe that if we use it on a regular basis, there's going to come a time where it is absolutely not appropriate. Maybe if you're someone as important as Ross Bernstein, you're having dinner with the president. Maybe you're pitching to a decision maker who is offended by curse words, but is not bothered to tell you that because they assume everyone is offended by curse words, and it will drop out of your mouth like butter because it is your norm. So I just choose not to have any room for it in my house. I can't make decisions for you, but that is my best recommendation. Next. There didn't used to be a time where we needed to think about this. There used to be a time where we could agree to disagree and still treat each other with respect anyway. There used to be a time where a person's politics was private. I mean, asking someone who they're going to vote for was nearly offensive. We are not in that time right now. And I don't care whether you're left, right, or middle. Communicating that at this point in time right now will lose you half of your audience. So if you want to build a sustained business where you're not always speaking to the right or always only speaking to the left, don't discuss politics. Inappropriate jokes or comments. If your brain says, well, I probably shouldn't say this, but don't. In any way, shape, or form. Just don't. Because we can be offensive without even knowing that we are offensive. I was speaking in the UK. There are words in the English language that are offensive in the UK, by the way. You need to know that. Ask me later. But I was speaking in the UK, and I used a term that's very common in the United States, more so in the 20th century than in the 21st century. I learned it from my dad. I used to use it all of the time, and the term was rule of thumb. Your rule of thumb is. I had a woman approach me, and she said, I need to tell you that something you said was offensive to me. And I said, first and foremost, allow me to apologize. It's never my intention to be offensive. Are you comfortable sharing it with me so that I can discipline myself in the future? And she said, yes. In my culture, it is completely acceptable for a man to beat his wife or female children anytime he deems necessary, so long as the switch that he uses is no wider than his own thumb. This is where your term, rule of thumb, came from. I had no idea. I thought your thumb was about an inch wide. You measure by rule of thumb. I had no idea. So except for purposes of that example, I have cut that term out of my vocabulary. So my question is, if anything that's about to come out, not my question, my statement, if anything that's about to come out of your mouth you know could potentially be offensive to anyone within earshot, not even just the person you're speaking to, make a different choice. Yes?
I feel like it's a challenging bar to raise. I like the idea of it, but when you're talking to a group of 1,000 people of a diverse set, I have two concerns. One, the subset of language that you're allowed to use becomes so limited that your message gets watered down.
Okay.
Second, I feel that there is a segment of the population looking for ways to be offended. So as an example, in the NSA, we used to have the buddy program. You will not hear about that anymore because in some culture, somewhere, someone said that buddy was slang for male genitalia. So now we have the ambassador program, which has a curse word in the middle of it. Because somehow that's better. So I like the spirit of what you're saying. I have to be in cybersecurity, so I'm all about T's and I's. And I'm concerned that dotting all of your I's and crossing all your T's is going to leave me a deaf mute on stage.
I respect your concern for that. My feeling is we can do the best we can do. And if we are endeavoring to not offend, that's the best that we can do. If I know that something that I normally say could be offensive to this particular audience or a portion of this particular audience, I'm going to leave it out. I'm going to, going back to the UK, okay? I'm speaking in front of 150 women in the UK, and we were talking about their annual review. And I said, ladies, if a pay raise is off the table, don't walk away empty-handed. Ask for something else. I'll tell you what, how about you ask for a new chair, one that 700 fannies haven't sat in before yours? And the room went, I said, oh, I said something, didn't I? And they all went, are you going to tell me what I said? Should I just move on? So a woman came up to me at break and she says, oh, you need to know. Fanny is the front part. It is a crass euphemism for the female private. In the United States, it would be the equivalent of using the C word.
Which is not offensive to them.
Which is not offensive to them, but to 150 women, which is why they don't have fanny packs, by the way, they have bum bags. But I had no idea. So now I would avoid using that word in the UK or any of the, so I see your point. I do, and I respect your point. All we can do is the best we can do. Okay? Bad mouthing. Other speakers? Bureaus? Any of your clients? Folks, we work in a very, very small world. It is a very small world. And you don't want to get the reputation. Okay? I've just developed the habit. When someone brings up a name, here's my secret. Now you all are going to know. Oh my. I will say, oh, I know them. If it's someone I would not, someone I would not choose to work with. If it's someone I would choose to work with, it's always, oh, I know them. I love them. Oh, I know them. Haven't seen them in a long time. Okay? Just don't do it. All right. So here's what. I can do another one. Da, 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 da. Essential number 3. Act with integrity at all times. All right, so let's talk about this. What does that look like, without the list that I gave you? What does that look like in the speaking world? Acting with integrity at all times. Marcy.
Using your own material and not stealing from others.
Using your own material. You have enough of it. Thank you. What else?
Yeah.
Oliver, right?
Yeah.
Oliver, yes.
Yeah. Seeking others' approval to use the material. Before you use it.
If you need to use someone else's material, always and I would say furthermore, compensate them for it. Okay? But I'm going to challenge you that you don't need to. Unless you're doing a licensing program like you're Maxwell certified or something like that. But I would say, I would challenge you to use your own material first. It's in there, you have it. You just have to dig it out and find it. All right, so let's look at things that are important. Okay? Honor your value proposition. That means that if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And you don't shortchange Anyone? Honor your refund or exchange program cheerfully and promptly. Don't make them take you to court. It's not a good look. Okay? You'll notice I have fee integrity in quotes. Fee integrity is a touchy subject in NSA, is it not?
Yes.
Yes, it is. And I have friends and colleagues who have looked me in the eye and said, I never leave the house for less than $10,000. And my response is, how often do you leave the house? I don't care what your fee is. There may be a reason that you would choose to work for less. It may be an organization that they're a nonprofit, that you value their mission. That's the word I was looking for, mission. There may be a reason. And it is not our place to judge others for making that decision. Except in certain, not judge, but except in certain situations. If you work extensively with bureaus, and one bureau has you at one fee and another bureau has you at another fee, you have undermined the credibility of yourself and all bureaus you work with. So if you're working with someone who is representing you and really doing so enthusiastically and whatever, make sure that if you raise your fees for all bureaus. And if you are doing something for a lower fee, make sure that it's because it's your nonprofit fee. It's your local fee. So I'm not saying that you have to charge the same thing all the time, but you have to have a consistency across all like bureau platforms. All right? Never borrow someone else's material. It is too easy to go from, John C. Maxwell used to always says, to, I've heard, blah, 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 to I always say. Never borrow someone else's material. And if you do, or if you are quoting someone, always cite them. And as a matter of fact, that's from Martin Luther King Jr. I found that graphic. Always pay for your graphics. Don't pull things off the internet that you haven't paid for. Okay, all of us have been in that situation where we've gotten the email from Getty Images before we learned the hard way. Okay, always pay for your graphics. I paid for that graphic, and I knew it was Martin Luther King. So it wasn't in the graphic, I added it. All right? What have I missed? Have I missed anything? Oh, pay your taxes. That's on your list. Pay your taxes. You run a business. And pay your vendors. You run a business. Run it with integrity. All right, so we're going to take a 10-minute break. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and that's going to bring us back at 10:32, right? 10:32. Here is your instructions for your break. Here we are. All right. Essential number 4. Open your mind to new possibilities. Folks, a closed mind cannot grow. And a closed mind cannot lead. And as professional speakers, you need to be always growing, and you are always leading. So, what does that look like for speakers? Well, let me tell you that there's not any one way for you to approach your business. Often when I meet, how many of you were at Influence? Were any of you there for the first time? Yes. Okay, was it a little overwhelming? Okay, was it a lot? Overwhelming, right? And so I am part of the ambassador program, and I always take on, I call them my quail. You know, anyone who is new to influence and chooses to gravitate to me, I take care of them. And one of the things that I always tell my quail is you will see 1,000 topics, and you will see 1,000 business models, and you will see 1,000 modalities. Pick one that works well for you. There was a time in the 20th century where we were told, I honestly was told, that if I was not keynoting for at least 5 figures, I was not a professional speaker. I was told that. I was told that. Workshops don't count. Training doesn't count. How many of you have ever heard of Skill Pass seminars?
Oh, yeah.
Fred Pryor seminars.
Oh, yeah.
I spent 7 years as a road warrior for Skill Pass seminars, and I was dang good at it. I was a professional speaker. Now, I was also a commodity, and it is a velvet hand or a golden handcuff. But hey, Skill Pass seminars put both of my kids through college. Okay? So, and I don't officially recommend that anyone go that route because they pay you pennies and it's a lot of hard work. But it's a really good way to learn how to speak under fire. So there's no one way to do your business. You're doing your business. That didn't sound right. It's like duty. Must have been a big duty. Sorry, I got off track. There's no one way to build a speaking business. And don't let anybody tell you that there is. Those of us who have been around for a while, now I did not consider myself a professional speaker at the time. I spent 12 years driving a fluffy pink Cadillac for Mary Kay Cosmetics. And I was always asked to speak. I spoke once a week to my unit, our success meetings. I spoke at local conferences, I spoke at regional conferences, and I spoke at seminar. So I was always being asked to speak, and I traveled a lot to do that. So I kind of count that. All right, so if we go back that far, those of us who have been speaking a long time, 9/11 shut everything down. And we had to reinvent our business to keep our household afloat. 2008 shut everything down. And we had to reinvent our business to keep our households afloat. Most recently, the pandemic. Now that's about reinventing your business. Okay? I spent 3 days curled up in a corner sucking my thumb, and I don't apologize for it. Colonel always said, use what you've got, kid, and just show up. All right? What can I do? I can finish my 4th book. Okay, I did that. I finished my 4th book. And then I outfitted my office to go virtual, and we pivoted. How many of you hate that word now? Okay, but it is a curse word, but we had to open our mind to new possibilities, or we would have gone under. All of us would have gone under. So open your mind to new possibilities. And I am doing that once again. I am opening my mind to new possibilities. I just concluded my year as chairperson of the Chapter Leadership Committee. I now have 1 year to serve as immediate past chair of the Chapter Leadership Committee. Then by the procedure that I wrote, I have to roll off of the chapter leadership committee after 9 years. Somebody just send me hugs, because I don't know what I'm going to do if I'm not chapter leadershiping. But here's the deal. After 7 years of trying, and the miracle of God and modern science, my daughter is pregnant. I never thought that I needed to be a grandma. I didn't think I needed to be a grandma. But I know that she desperately wanted to be a mom. And so we have a Spud coming. And we call him Spud, I call him Spud, because when we were introduced to him the first time, according to the little app that my daughter tracks, when she was finally willing to verbalize the fact that the transfer had taken and there was a baby, the little app that she tracked said that he was the size of a tater tot. So I started calling him Tater Tot. Well, he's at 20 weeks now, and he's the size of a baking potato. Spud. It's my boy Spud. He's due in February. You think I'm going to reinvent my business? Yeah. All right. I don't know what my business looks like after February. I know God does. And He's going to help me figure it out. But my number one priority is Spud. So I'm opening my mind to new possibilities. One of them is online courses. I've done it once in my life, badly, lost a whole lot of money and said I was never going to do that again. But I am opening my mind to new possibilities. And here's the other thing that hit me like a brick between the eyes at Influence. And I'm telling you this as an example of opening your mind to new possibilities, okay? Not because you care so much about my business. But at Influence this year, I was recognized in a very big way for my work with the Chapter Leadership Committee. I received the Chairperson's Award of Distinction at the CSP breakfast in front of my peers, which was just like overwhelming for me. And then on the big screen, this video that they played. And I was sitting next to Tom Singer in the back row, and he goes, "That's you. That's about you, you know." And I was like, yeah, I can't absorb that. But this was my velvet brick. I elevate emerging leaders. It's what I've always done. I've worked in the industries of trucking, the trades, heating, plumbing, cooling, electrical, credit unions, human resources, and dental. None of which do I have a passion for. I've just always gone where the money is. I just got recognized for donating 9 years of my life to elevating leaders in an association that has a chapter model. Now, if that's not a passion, I don't know what is. And these are programs that I either wrote myself or I helped write. I have Jamie's blessing, and I am now going to be pursuing teaching the chapter leadership model to other associations that have a chapter model. I am opening my mind to new possibilities. Open your mind to new possibilities. Just because you have done something doesn't mean you have to continue doing it. Just because you have done something poorly in the past doesn't mean you can't learn how to do it well now. Open your mind to new possibilities. Always be evolving. All right. Essential number 5, cast a vision. Now that's Leadership 101 material. How does that relate to you as a speaker? So you're a speaker. You're an expert. You're inspiring. You're motivating. You're all of these words, these buzz words that people tell you to put into your marketing copy. Right? And I know you guys have them in there. I have them in there. But because everyone has them in there, they end up blah, 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 me. Your marketing has to cast a vision for them. What is it going to look like for the meeting planner when the objectives that she has, she or he, they have for this conference are met by hiring you? What's it going to look like for them? What's it going to feel like for them when you make them look like a hero, like a rock star? Because that's your job. That is your job. Had a conversation with Michelle on the way over. Understand who your, and I'm talking keynotes and conference speaking, breakouts, general sessions. Understand who your client is. And your client is not the audience. Your client is the meeting professional who hired you. Their client is either the association, the organization. The audience is important. It is really important. They're not your client. So what's it going to look like for the meeting professional, the decision maker that hired you? Cast a vision for them. Then go further and cast a vision for the audience. What's it going to look like when they change their life the way you want them to change their life? What's it going to look like for them when they put the action, the call to action that you have given them into practice? What's that going to look like, feel like, be like? That's the vision that we as speakers need to cast. Number 5, cast a vision. Oh, there's your audience. I'm casting a vision for them. Can you see it? All right. Communicate effectively. Communication is where I started everything. Communicating effectively and respectfully. So, overall best practices. And as part of my research that I do, I'm trying to always talk to meeting professionals. Not to hire me, but to learn for what they're looking for. 3 overall best practices. Professionalism, above all things. That means we don't fall into any of the potholes that we've discussed already. Be consistent. Always communicate with professionalism. If the need arises, even if issues arise, and issues will arise. Have you ever had a keynote that an issue didn't arise, even at a small level? No, they always will. Gratitude. They didn't have to hire you. There are 1,000, nay 10,000 professional speakers that speak on your subject. I speak on leadership. Right? But you also need to know that leadership is the #1 most requested topic for keynotes, training, and corporate consulting globally for 10 years running. So there's a good market for leadership. But also, every speaker that's ever held a management position thinks that they're a leadership speaker. So everybody has leadership on their thing. So they didn't have to hire you, is my point. So offer gratitude to them for hiring you. And then be consistent. Be consistent in how effectively you communicate. Because if you are an incredible communicator for one speaking engagement, I was told we don't call them gigs anymore. Because gigs are for musicians and magicians.
What?
You have gigs. I don't know. I was told that. Doesn't mean I don't call them gigs. All right? So if you communicate really effectively for one gig and they hire you for a second gig and you ghost them and they can't get in touch with you, You've lost all of your credibility, and they will never hire you again. So be consistent. All right. Also, in discussions with meeting professionals, and by the way, and this is true, they don't like being called meeting planners. They are meeting professionals. Things that make them crazy. These are don't do this. All right? Before the event, under communicating. And these are all in your handout, by the way. Delayed responses. I'm not saying that you have to get back to them within 10 minutes or an hour, but I never go beyond 24 hours. No effort to understand the event's goals and needs. You need to know what the meeting professional wants to get out, wants her audience to walk away with. Because if you walk on stage and you do something canned that you've done 100 times and it has no relevance to them, you will not get hired again. Incomplete or inaccurate documentation makes them crazy. All right, during the event, failure to communicate upon arrival. The minute you arrive on site, you send them a text. They don't want to be worrying about whether or not their speaker is there. They know you're there. They know you're ready to go. I have a habit that I learned from CPAE many, many years ago. If I arrive late, like my flight is delayed, and I arrive past when someone would be naturally asleep, I will pay the hotel, pop them a 20, to slip a note underneath their door. I don't ask them what room they're not going to tell me what room the meeting professional's in. Anyway, I don't want to know. But I can pay them to slip a note underneath the door. And I have a little credit card, not credit card, what's the word I'm looking for? Postcard. I have a little pre-printed postcard, and it says, guess who's arrived on site? I'll see you in the morning. So when they wake up, it's there. Whew, Lauren's here. Okay? Always communicate when you arrive. Failure to do so makes them crazy. Be flexible. Be courteous to your AV staff, your hotel support staff, convention center support staff, etc. If the meeting professional wants to engage with you on site, engage with them. Never say, I'm busy preparing. No. Whatever they want to talk about is what you want to talk about.
I have a comment on flexibility.
Yes, ma'am.
I have been asked both ways. One, when the previous speaker takes over your time, you have to shorten to stay on time and bring back the event to be on time. And then there was another one that the previous speaker was super short, like half an hour short, like they ended prematurely. So they asked me to extend mine.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be flexible to do both.
Yes, absolutely. On the previous one, I will always ask the meeting professional, what is your preference? Do you want me to stay on time and get the meeting back on time, which I absolutely can do. I can cut 2 or 3 stories. I can do this. Or do you want me to give my full keynote? Ask them what their preference is and run with what they tell you. I always do that. Speaking of that, remind me, what's my cutoff time? Is it 11:30? Okay. Lack of updates. Ups and downs. If something amazing happens, tell them. Because they will want to make a note of it so that they can tell their client, this happened and it was amazing. If something less than amazing happens, tell them immediately. Because they don't want any surprises. And then after after the meeting. Failure to provide any of the follow-up materials that you have committed to. You don't want the audience members saying, well, she promised that she would email this to everybody, and I haven't gotten it yet. Am I going to get it? Like, the meeting professional doesn't know and doesn't want to have to deal with that. You have all of this in your handout. Any of these, don't do it. Okay. Number 7, lead by example. There are 3 ways to lead, 3 and only 3 ways to lead. The first one is by example. The second one is by example. Guess what the third one is? There you go. Because you are being watched at all times. Okay? Although I was not wearing a red jacket when I walked in here, most of you, having seen the picture of me in the promo material, looked and said, oh, that's our speaker. Okay? Your picture is all over the promo material. They know what you look like, and they recognize you. Or, worse yet, what if they don't? What if you're in the elevator with someone and they see something, you do something that is not good? And then you walk on stage. And they go, oh, I saw that speaker do this. They're watching you all the time. They're watching how you treat the AV staff. They're watching how you treat the registration desk personnel. They're watching where that candy wrapper drops out of your hand. Is it on the floor or is it in a rubbish bin? They're watching you all the time, and you have to be up for that standard. Is it exhausting? Yes, but that's the industry that you chose to have a passion for. All right? I could tell you 100 stories about that, but I won't. All right. Celebrate the results of others. It is part and parcel for our industry that we need to be touting ourselves all the time. I hate it. But it's now I have never been the type, and I'm not disparaging, I'm just saying I don't do it. I don't need to take a picture of myself on every airplane I get onto. I don't need to take a picture of myself on every stage I'm on. Every now and then, I will walk into, especially if it's a good and really impressively decorated ballroom, and I will take a picture of the ballroom before the audience comes in. And I normally say something like the calm before the storm, or something like that. Ross is gone, but Ross does an amazing job of taking a picture of every audience he's in front of and posting it on LinkedIn. And good on him. I can't. I put out my kernels of wisdom, and my media person says, well, your picture has to be on every single one of them. Really? Does it? But it is. Okay? So there's a lot of me, hire me. Take a moment and celebrate others. Celebrate the AV team. They will make or break your moment on stage. So make sure you have a really good rapport with them. And when they've done a really great job, you tell your meeting professional how amazing they are. Because the next time you work with that meeting professional, she's probably going to have the same AV team. Okay? Celebrate the AV team. Your job is not to present a keynote or training or whatever. Your job is to make the meeting professional look like a hero. That is your job, in a nutshell. So do that. And then celebrate other speakers. Lift other speakers up. Again, my area of expertise is leadership. But if someone comes to me and they say, I need leadership training, I'm looking for someone to help me plan strategically for the next 5 years, I will say, that's not my strength. I recommend you call Stephen Iverson. Nobody's better at that than Stephen Iverson is. Let me connect the two of you. If someone says to me, I need leadership training, I need someone to show me how to move all of the financial pieces on my puzzle, which is not really leadership training, it's kind of about money training, but that's okay. I will say, you know what, let me connect you with Marquita Miller-Joshua. Nobody's better than she is. But if someone says to either of those two people, I need someone to help my leaders communicate with their teams, build buy-in, and create culture, both of them are going to go, let me connect you with Lauren Schieffer. She's called the Colonel's daughter. Nobody does that better than she does. Lift other speakers up. Okay? I was at some SHRM in Missouri. Must have been Missouri State SHRM. John Petz. Y'all know John Petz? Okay? John Petz is an amazing MC. And he did the opening keynote and then emceed the rest of the conference. And he was talking about his books, which he sells, but he gives all of the money to his foundation. And he didn't have anybody at his table. And I knew he was going to sell out because he's that good. And so I got up right as he started his last story, and I walked over and I stood behind his table. We had never met. But he walked over and I said, John, my name is Lauren Schieffer. I'm from the Kansas City chapter. Do you have a credit card machine that I can help you with? And he goes, no. I said, okay, cash or check? That's all we're doing? He goes, yeah. I said, great. I'll take the money. You shake hands and talk to people. And we did it. And afterward, he said, no one's ever done that for me before. That was amazing. Elevate other speakers. All right? Celebrate the results of others. And number 9, work for your replacement. As leaders, our primary job is to replace ourselves. What does that look like for speakers? Well, you're in the right place, right here. National Speakers Association. Our entire mission is helping each other build a better business and be a better speaker. This, by the way, is the statue that is the Cavett Award. No, it's not mine. I have not received the Cavett yet. But that was the spirit of Cavett. If you don't know the story of how NSA was founded, and Cavett Robert sitting at a table with Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, and Harvey Mackay, when they decided that when they passed, there was no one following in their footsteps, and they needed to fix that. And as the story goes, I wasn't there, by the way. As the story goes, Cavett said, rather than slicing out our own little piece of the pie, here's my piece of the pie, here's your piece of the pie, what if we made the whole pie bigger for everybody? So there was never a question of if there was enough pie for everyone. Okay? That's working for your replacement. Every person in this room that has a successful speaking business was helped along the way by someone in NSA. Okay? One of my biggest Cavetts is Mark LeBlanc. I got a text from him this morning saying, sorry, I can't be there. Knock it out. All right? And how does that relate in this room? How am I doing? Oh my God, I'm early. That's okay. I will have Q&A, and I can wrap up with one of my stories. I can. Oh my God. Okay. How does that relate to right here in this room? As I said, you have a model chapter. You want to keep it that way, right? To me, there's nothing sadder than a chapter that was amazing that is no longer. That means that every single one of you is responsible for making that happen. Volunteer. Volunteer to be on the board. If you haven't been on the board, it doesn't matter. Because of the chapter leadership committee, there is training for board members. So you're not thrust into a position where expectations are made of you and you don't know what they are. So volunteer to be on the board. If you're not ready to be on the board, volunteer to be on a committee. What you're doing is building the chapter, maintaining the outstanding chapter for those who come next. Working for your replacement. It is so essential. I cannot tell you how many chapters I have worked with where board transition consists of one president that's been there for 5 years handing a shoebox to the next sucker that's going to take the job and running out the door. It's not the way it should. It happens. Okay? Work for your replacement. Take advantage of the people here, not take advantage of, but avail yourself. I worded that really poorly, didn't I? Avail yourself of those that are here. Help those coming up. And work with your chapter to make sure that you continue to be the model chapter in NSA. Okay? So, I started with my opening from finding significance. Can I give you my closing for finding significance? The best example of choosing significance that I've ever seen in my life came not from the Colonel, but from a chance meeting with a woman named Valerie in October of 2007. I had a layover in the airport in Charlotte, North Carolina. And as I came off the jet bridge, I went to do what every human being does when they leave the jet bridge, and that is go to the bathroom. Now, at that time in Charlotte, every bathroom had a bathroom attendant. It was their job to spend their entire shift in the bathroom, making sure that the toilet paper and the paper towels were stocked, and cleaning up any messes that might arrive. Now, I don't know about you, but to me that sounds like a pretty crappy job. Quite literally. Yeah, I thought so. I came around the corner and I heard someone singing in the bathroom. And I thought to myself, someone is singing in a public bathroom. I don't need to go that badly. But I did need to go that badly. So I came around the corner and I encountered Valerie Washington. No lines, no waiting, no waiting, no lines. Hey, welcome to Valerie's Happy Restroom. And as she guided me to the corner stall, she says, oh, looky here. I got the penthouse for you today. You are the VIP. It's very important that you get a seat in Valerie's Happy Restroom. This is where you go pee happy. I was astounded. I mean, I was enjoying my job okay. I wasn't singing about it. I wanted to find out what her secret was. I mean, if she could have such an amazing attitude in such a seemingly crummy job, I wanted to know what she was drinking. I had a 3-hour layover. So I found out when she had a break and I invited her to have a cup of coffee with me. Ain't no secret, Miss Lauren. Sunshine on the inside makes sunshine on the outside. If you can't have fun at work, don't go. I said, Valerie, how do you do it? How do you deal with all the snippy people and the grumpy travelers? She goes, they're just lost. See, life is pushing on them, and they're moving so fast they forget to stop and look around them. Now that's why I'm here. You see, the good Lord put me here to remind people that sunshine on the inside makes sunshine on the outside. No one's responsible for sunshine but you. Wow. Valerie, you're amazing. Haven't you ever wanted more? Now, she thought about that one for a minute. What more could I ask for, Miss Lauren? Every day, thousands of people come into Valerie's happy restroom. They're grumpy, they're tired. I make them smile. I made you smile. I send thousands of smiles back out to the world every day. Who could ask for more than that? Whoa, pay attention, kid. This is a road sign in your life. I learned so much from Valerie Washington that day. I learned that nobody is responsible for my sunshine but me. I learned that happiness is in the heart, not the circumstances. And I learned that significance is a choice. It's a choice we make every day. Folks, anyone can be successful. My wish for you is to be significant. Thank you. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Now, because I have pushed so hard for the Chapter Talk It Out program, I want you to scan the top. This is the chapter's Talk It Out. It is not my Talk It Out. And we're working really, really hard to get all the chapters to use this Talk It Out so that we can get an objective database of speakers. Is it working? Okay. It is slow. Okay. Huh? The code's working, but the internet is slow. Okay, so can I move on? All right. These are your 9 essentials of building a sustained speaking business. It is a very 40,000-foot view. I give you the fact that it's a very 40,000-foot view. My experience has proven to me that if you focus through all of your efforts through here, you will have a sustained speaking business. I have paid my mortgage and put 2 children through college, focusing on these 9 essentials of a sustained speaking business. Yep, that's the last one. There we go. Okay, so I am available for questions. Are there questions? Yes, Oliver. I see you over here too. I see you.
Thank you so much, Mary. You actually have my wife's name, so I'm happy to be here.
She must be lovely also.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My question is this. 3 months ago, I was delivering a workshop in Florida on public speaking, helping leaders to...
Hold this thought. Do we need him? Do we need the mic?
Yeah, microphone, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Got it? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and trust folks, if I give you the mic, you know, they say never give anybody, never hand them the mic. Don't abuse it. Go. 3 months ago,
3
workshop.
months ago, I had the privilege to deliver to train some leaders in Florida, Denver, and a workshop on public speaking for leaders. I did the workshop. They said it was great, and I feel it was really great. So at the end of the day, I had a tangent. So I was explaining the type of speakers and then the categories of speaking, and there were 4. So from a question I was asked, so I gave 1, 2, 3. And the 4th one escaped my mind. Everybody was waiting for the 4th one. And I thought about it for 5 seconds. Escape. I struggled to bring it back. It did not. I wanted to tell stories. I'm like, there's no time for stories. And I skipped it. So I went ahead with what I was saying. And somebody just said, Oliver, what's the last one? And somebody sitting down there, Tim, was like, sorry, there are only 3 categories, not 4. I'm like, no, Tim, there are actually 4, but I'm sorry, I forgot the last one. And I wasn't happy with that, but I felt a little bit bad. If you were in my shoes, what could you have done? Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in here that hasn't happened to? No. Okay, so first off, you're not alone. I can tell you what I would do, and I'm going to relate that back to know your speaking style, right? Because what I would say is, oh my heavens, train of thought crashed and burned. Did you see it right here, guys? You saw the train of thought? The 4th one is escaping me right now. It's going to come back to me. I know it is. So while my brain is chewing on it, I'm going to move on, and then I'm going to come back to it. And then I would have gone to, if I had a team member, I would have gone to, just in case, look it up and remind me what the 4th is. And then I moved on. That gives me permission to move on, and they know I'm human. That's what I would have done. Okay? Over here. I saw you over here. Here we come.
Thank you for kicking off our speaker season this year.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for that. My question relates to the story of Valerie Washington. It's so powerful. I imagine we will all remember it.
Thank you.
My question is, does she know you use this story?
Yeah, she does.
And do you keep up with her? And what is that relationship like now?
I did for many, thank you very much. I did for many, many years.
Yeah.
She moved out of the, they shut down the program where every bathroom had a bathroom attendant. And so she moved to the gift shop. And it was amazing that she created brand new wraps for the gift shop. I lost track of her during the pandemic. And I haven't been able to find her again. Yeah, but yes, we emailed each other, and I sent her a Christmas card, and yeah, she was amazing. I don't know where she is. I lost track of her. I choose to believe that she survived the pandemic and just moved. That's but I've lost track of her. But thank you for asking. Yeah. Other questions? Dr. Germain.
So I don't necessarily have a question, but I would like to celebrate something two things that you said that really resonated with me.
Oh.
And I need to hear. So when you gave us the exercise on values, but I wrote in my notes, are you working in contrast to your core values? And let me tell you why that means a lot to me, because in our industry, like you said, people say, oh, I don't leave home unless I'm making 10,000 apples, you know?
Yeah.
And so I became a father later in life. So people my age, pretty much their kids are grown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking, if I'm out in the world making a lot of money, but I'm failing my son, that's not success to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making less money now. I mean, I still have a good living,
Right.
but I'm making less money now, but it's important for me. So I needed to hear that from my soul. So thank you for the activity, and thank you for sharing that. Like
You're
that,
welcome.
like you, I'm getting emotional saying it now. So I needed to hear that, and I love the piece on engagement style, because for many years, you know, we all had these idiosyncrasies, and I would show up being Jermaine Davis, bringing the west side of Chicago, bringing the Dr. Jermaine with me, and I used to feel so weird. And whenever I tried to act professional like they wanted, I was stiff, but when I brought my idiosyncrasies in, people love that. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing that. And because I know you, can I give you a hug? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, there was something that I was gonna, train of thought crashed and burned, you see it? I don't know what it is. You know, the last thing that I want to share with you all is there are hundreds of thousands of speakers. Just in the United States, there are hundreds of thousands more who call themselves speakers. Okay? And in NSA, we are the best of the best. And it's really easy in NSA to think to yourself, well, if I'm not a CSP, by the way, everyone should go for their CSP. Everyone needs to go for this year, Tim. Everyone should apply for their CSP. It is a hard road to hoe. There are fewer than 400 of us globally. There are fewer than 1,000 that have been given the designation since it started. Okay, many of them have passed, but there are fewer than 400 of us globally. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it. Okay, so everyone should go for their CSP. But the point that I was making is it's real easy to think if I'm not a CSP, if I'm not a CPAE, if I'm not in the $1 Million Speakers Club, I haven't made it. And I've always been one of those people that if I'm not at the top, I haven't made it. You know, sometimes the Colonel's expectations of me do me no favors. I had to have the Cadillac when I was in Mary Kay. Had to have it. Because without it, you know, there are 3 levels of cars, they're different colors. I was driving free, but it wasn't. If I didn't get to national speakers or national sales director, I always had to be at the top. So NSA is kind of a challenge for me because I can't earn the CPAE. And I'm not willing to work at this point in my life hard enough to be in the $1 Million Speakers Group. But that doesn't mean that each of us have not made it. Okay? And you know, when I was invited, when Karen invited me, I said, Karen, I don't speak on sales, I don't speak on stage presence. I don't speak on branding. I don't know what you want me to say. What do I say? And she said, Lauren, you've been speaking professionally for 20 years. And you've led the chapter leadership. I've made my mortgage and put 2 children through college speaking. Okay, so don't put other people's titles on your expectations of yourself. Just do the work and help others grow first. And that is significance.
Oh my.
Really, thank you.
You know, she has the most impressive demos. I don't know if some of you saw the yoga one-legged pose that she was doing on that high heel there. I'm like, damn,